A few words of Torah this evening. First of all, Shabbat Shalom again, and of course a very happy Go Texan Day to everybody. If there are, I understand there may be some out-of-town visitors who are here celebrating the bat mitzvahs this weekend, so if you're from out of town and you've not observed Go Texan Day before, let me tell you, it's a really important day in Houston, and it is customarily observed by frantically running through Target trying to find a cowboy hat that will fit your child the night before Go Texan Day when everyone dresses up in Western gear. We're going to talk about cowboy hats a little bit later, but for now, a word about our portion this week. As I've said a number of times before on this bima, God's infinite wisdom shows itself very often by delivering to us the perfect Torah portion at the perfect time each Shabbat. Somehow the stars and planets align and we get exactly the bit of Torah that we need just when we need it. This Shabbat is no different. This Shabbat we read a portion called Titzaveh. So this Torah portion, as our bat mitzvah girls can affirm, is a portion all about the precise instructions given to Aaron and the priests as they prepare to carry out their religious duties in the desert tabernacle long ago. And it is the perfect Torah portion for the opening weekend of the Houston Rodeo. Now, I want to invite you to just listen to these instructions that the Torah gives us this Shabbat. Just like at the rodeo, a highlight of these proceedings is the grand and elaborate livestock show. Here's what the Torah says. Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands upon the head of a bull. They shall examine a ram for the offering. They shall inspect the animal's tails and their legs and the fleshy parts of their chests. After the animals are reviewed, they shall be led up onto the raised platform of the altar. The altar shall then become holy, and everything brought upon it shall become consecrated. Does this sound at all familiar, Texans? But there's more. What else is important about the rodeo? Food. Food, delicious, fatty, succulent food. Listen to what the Torah tells us. You shall slaughter a bull and divide it up, and you shall take its fat and heat it on the altar. You shall take the ram and divide it into sections, wash all the parts inside and out, and smoke them. On the fire of the altar. With them, there's more, with them, you shall take a flat loaf of bread, an olive oil cake, and a wafer baked with flour. Place them in the hands of the priests. The pleasant odor from the fire shall be an offering, a holy gift to God. Friends, you heard it here first. I don't know what conclusion we can draw from our portion this week, except that it is your Jewish birthright and religious duty to eat barbecue. Now, but I want to get back to this subject of the very important headgear. I want to talk about cowboy hats and hats in general, because just like any self-respecting cowboy, the ancient high priest needed a really great hat. A Torah portion this week talks about the priest's hat in exacting detail, its construction, its color, the materials used to make it, how it is to be positioned on the priest's head. The Jewish tradition is very careful to point out that if the high priest's hat isn't fashioned correctly or worn exactly right, that priest may be disqualified from participating in the ritual of animal sacrifice, and he becomes all hat, no cattle. Now, why is the Torah so concerned about this detail, about the hat in particular, about this one specific accessory that might otherwise seem so inconsequential? One possible answer can be found in a short postscript after the description about what the hat is supposed to look like. Here's what the Torah says. After the hat is finished, you shall make a plate of pure gold. Attach it to the front of the hat with a cord of blue, and engrave upon the plate the words, Kodesh Ladonai, holy to the Lord. So I want you to picture this, a solid gold plate hanging down from the front of this ornate headdress just about here, right in front of the priest's eyes. Why? The rabbis in the tractate of the Talmud called Zevachim conclude that the purpose of that golden plate before the eyes of the priest is there to remind him to direct his mind toward a higher power, to discourage the temptation of his eyes that might otherwise draw him toward feelings of pride or egotism. That he's encouraged by that metal plate to focus his intention and his thoughts, to filter everything else out and concentrate on his sacred duties while he's offering the sacrifices at the altar. But what's most interesting is that the instruction about the gold plate on his hat tells us that the high priest should wear that golden plaque, al mitzcho tamid, on his forehead at all times. At all times, not just when he's conducting the sacrifice, not just while he's serving in his priestly role, always. He's supposed to feel it there, the weight of that metal plate on his forehead, all the time, to remind him who he is, to remind him what his purpose in the world must be. It's an extraordinary literary detail that amid all of the other distractions, all of the other stimuli around him in that carnival of celebration and sound and flavor, delicious smells and stirring sounds and the pageantry of religious devotion, he'll be lost. He will in fact be disqualified if he cannot remember always that he's there as a representative of God, as a reminder to the people that it is their job as well to pursue holiness at all times. It's a great epilogue to the story and an important cautionary instruction, not just to clergy, not just to representatives of religious institutions, but to anyone in a position of leadership. Don't forget who you are. Don't forget what you're here to do. Don't forget what others around you, whoever they may be, expect of you. It's probably, in the end, a good instruction for everybody to cultivate that kind of awareness and intention. Stay focused on the primary question: who are you? Why are you here? If you had to go through every day with your primary mission suspended before your eyes, inscribed in gold, what would it say? What would you have written there before your eyes to look at constantly during your day? We know that Shabbat is observed as a celebration of the seventh day of creation, but there's another reason for Shabbat as well. Shabbat is also called Zecher Litziat Mitzrayim, a reminder that we were liberated from Egypt. Every Shabbat, we're urged to remember that we are free people, redeemed from slavery, but that our freedom wasn't given to lead us into hedonism or self-indulgence, but to liberate us to achieve our highest goals, to fulfill the greatest, most powerful purposes for which we were put on earth. So this Shabbat, like every week, the question again is posed to all of us. What are we here to do? What were we made to contribute to the world? And how can we start making that contribution now? This weekend is the beginning of a time of great joy and celebration and fun in our city. There's great joy and celebration and fun in Jewish tradition as well, but both of them remind us that if the only end of the celebration is the fun itself, then the celebration is meaningless. Our job is to use the celebration like a lever, to pry open our hearts and the mission for which we were created, so that we, at all times remembering that we too are holy to God, can fulfill everything demanded of us and everything of which we are capable. Shabbat Shalom.